What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. It's Ars. Let's get productive. So today I want to talk about something really new and really cool from one of my favorite companies, Audiomodern. Now, I know you guys have to have heard of Audiomodern. They've been around for a little while now, and they've been reinventing the wheel in different areas of music production with their plugins for a little while now. They're really good at creating plugins that takes a specific area of music composition and music production and breaks it down into a way that's really user-friendly and makes it easier to accomplish and achieve the sound that you're going for. Everything from chord generators to just all kinds of really cool different things. And today is no different. They just came with their brand new plugin, Loopmix. Now, this thing is truly incredible. Like, the ease of use on how it takes samples and places those samples into different tracks and allows you to chop those samples up and flip them and reverse them in different pieces and play them back in real time is really special and really incredible. Like, there's other plugins on the market that allow you to chop samples and stuff like that, but their approach to it is really cool. And of course, they add their signature randomization into that approach, and it just takes it to a whole new level. Now, there's a lot going on inside of this plugin. I'm not going to take you through every single feature inside of this plugin. On their website, they have an overview video that literally takes you through every single feature that's inside of this plugin. And there's a lot, there's a lot to unpack in this plugin. So I'm not gonna do a 2-hour video about every single thing inside the plugin, but I am gonna take you through some of the coolest features inside of this thing. We're gonna use it. We're gonna make a beat using it. As always, I'm gonna do my cook up. So we're gonna have a really interesting and really fun time with this thing. So let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Audiomodern, Loopmix. Let's see what this thing is all about. So as always, I have Logic queued up, and this is Loopmix. Now, it goes without saying that these guys make incredibly clean and just really fresh looking UI designs. It's always really vibrant, always really clean. The look of it and everything makes you feel like you're at the control boards of a spaceship. So I love their UI designs. They're always really clean, really sharp. It has a similar aesthetic to some of their other plugins, but like I said, this one focuses mainly on samples and loops and allowing you to chop those samples up in the individual sections on individual tracks, so you can kind of play them back in a lot of really interesting ways. So if we take a look at the UI design, like I said, it's really clean. It has that grayish hot pink aesthetic to it. The resolution is really sharp. It's really beautiful. I love how this thing looks. And now we can go through some of the sections inside of this plugin really quickly, just so you can see what's happening on the main page here inside of this plugin. Up at the top here, you have this little play button symbol here, and then you have your keyboard symbol over here. Now, what this is gonna do, this is gonna allow you to switch back and forth between MIDI mode and playback mode. And in MIDI mode, you can actually trigger the loops and the samples on different keys on your keyboard. If you click right here next to it, it takes you to your mixer area, and this is where you can mix all 6 tracks. So you have 6 different tracks to play with as far as the samples are concerned. So you can chop up and swap and reverse and rearrange up to 6 different samples. And the mixer right here is going to show you those 6 different faders for those 6 different samples. Right here, this button, this resets the sequencer and all of the effects inside of the sequencer. So this button right here, if you click on this and then you click on the randomization button in the center, this is going to allow you to randomize just a certain amount of steps of the sequencer instead of the whole entire thing. So that's going to allow you to get some really interesting and unique results, as opposed to randomizing every single thing. You'll be able to just randomize a few portions of it. This button right here, this little Thunderbolt button, is a temporary randomization section. So you'll notice when I click on this little button down here, you'll see in the sequencer, the squares change. And when I let it go, they go back to the way they were before. So if you just want to randomize a portion of it for a little while, you hold that button down, and then as soon as you let it go, it's going to go back to the original steps in the sequencer. I really feel like this thing would be incredible in standalone mode. Like if you're a DJ and you're bringing this out to an event, you're going to be able to do some incredible mixes and some really cool, interesting things using Loopmix just in standalone mode. Now over here, this is like your fade button. Now what this does is you can you can go back and forth between 1 all the way up to 16 different loops. And after 16 loops, your entire arrangement is gonna slowly fade out. So say you have this number set to 4. Within 4 loops, whatever you have set up inside of your sequencer, it's gonna slowly fade out until it disintegrates. So this is like your disintegrate button. Now this button over here, this is your infinity mode. And when you're in infinity mode, this thing takes complete control of the sequencer and the effects, and it completely generates a new pattern every single time. And over here, export is what it sounds like. You can export your individual audio tracks or your MIDI tracks. We'll get into that in a second when I start playing back some of the different things here. But like I said, you have 6 different tracks. So you can go through the 6 tracks right here. And you have your all button right here. And in each one of these tracks, you can add a different loop. Now you can start this thing off by just going through some of the presets. And they have a bunch of different presets loaded up for you that you can play around with. Now, when you get this thing, it's going to come completely empty. All of the tracks are going to be empty. And you can start off by dragging and dropping your own samples directly onto any one of these tracks that you want to drag and drop the sample on. Or you can highlight the track and go right here and click that and drag and drop a portion of that sample and say a portion of this loop over here and a portion of this loop into the sample area. Hit that X button and you have those tracks dragged and dropped onto each track. Or you can go up here to the presets section and just go forward and backward through the arrows and just play them back. And it's that simple. It's really that simple to get started. And what you're basically doing with this plugin is you're taking these loops that are applied to different tracks, kind of like how you would play different MIDI notes on your DAW, and you would separate the instruments into different tracks. You're separating the loops into different tracks, but this thing is chopping those loops up and allowing you to rearrange them and play with them in really interesting ways. I'll give you an example just by messing around with this thing. Now, what you do in this section right here can either apply to every single one of the tracks, or they can apply to each track individually. It just depends on what you have highlighted. So you can have all highlighted, and what you do up here is going to apply to all of the tracks, or you can have each one of these tracks highlighted, and what you do over here is going to apply to those individual tracks. Up here above that section, you have your sequencer section, you have your rearrange section, your reverse section, your density section, your volume section, and your pitch section. Now, in the sequencer section is just basically straightforward what it sounds like. It's the sequencer for your loops, and you can just play it back. In your rearrange section, this is where you're going to be able to take those sections that were chopped up in your loop, and you can move them around to change the playback of your beat and to change the samples in the loops. Let's say we solo track number 1 right here and just play that back. I can then click this part of the sample right here and drag it to the beginning. Go over to sequencer and highlight that so it's turned on, and go to the beginning here. Go back to rearrange, drag a different portion of the sample, drag it to the beginning, or let's drag this one over here. Let's drag this last one right here. And we can go over to sequencer. I'll highlight some of those and we can listen to what that sounds like. And if I wanted to, I can go over here to reverse and just click on any one of these squares and it will reverse the section of that square. So click that. And reverse these two. Really cool stuff. Now, if you want to add more slices, inside of those individual loops, you can just go right over here to the side where it says slice, and you can just slice them up to 64 different slices. So I'll click 64, and on track 1, now I'm in 64 different slices, and I can rearrange that how I want, those 64 slices how I want, and move them around how I want. Also, in the density section, what this thing does, density is going to allow you to get that rapid fire effect with your snares or any other parts of the sample that you want to chop up without having to sit there and plug in all the little MIDI notes. All you have to do is raise the fader. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go back to 16 steps. All you have to do in density mode is just raise this fader, and you'll notice it's splitting it up into a bunch of different copies, and you'll get that rapid fire effect. Do it here. And you can split that thing up how you want. Volume is going to allow you to change the volume of all of the different slices within your loop, and pitch will allow you to change the pitch of those slices. So right over here, I can press play and change the pitch. And it's that simple. You can chop and slice your sample up however you want. Now, if I like that track and I like how that track sounds, I would go back over to sequencer. I can lock that track by just clicking this button over here on the right. And now whatever I do to track 2, it will allow me to highlight the sequencer however I want without moving or changing anything in track 1. So for example, if I don't lock track 1 and I try to move things around on track 2, you'll see that it unhighlighted the first 3 steps in track 1. But if I lock track 1, I can highlight those and highlight these on track 2 without moving anything around. So if you don't want anything to change in your tracks after you do your arrangements, just lock that section up and then move on to the next track, and you can highlight different steps in your sequencer without having to worry about it changing anything in the previous or on any of the other tracks. If you want to erase the loop in that track, you just go right next to the lock button and hit the erase button, and it will erase everything. And it's that simple. Now, while you're in these different tracks, like I said, right above the sequencer is this little section right here. And depending on what track you're on, you'll be able to adjust some of the settings of that track in this section right above the sequencer. You can either change the sample itself by just clicking the forward arrow right here. You can change the pitch of those individual tracks. By just playing with the pitch knob right here. And you can also move those sections of those tracks to where you want them by pushing the forward or backward arrow and the offset button. So as you'll see, when I start pushing forward, it moves the loop throughout the sequencer. Now over here, this section right here, you can speed up the individual loops on that track by just going through these different buttons right here. You can hear what that sounds like. I'll solo track number 5 so you can hear what that sounds like when you slow it down or speed it up. And so, yeah, it's really, really that simple. Like I said, I'm not going to take you through every single feature inside of this thing, but it allows you to do a lot. Down here at the bottom, you have your stem section and your sequencer section. So in your stem section, when you're in MIDI mode, you can play the individual stems of each track just by hitting different keys on your keyboard. In your sequencer section, when you're in MIDI mode, you can hit the different keys on your keyboard and it will play out the entire loop on that track. And if you like everything you did, it's as simple as going over to export, and you can just drag and drop the MIDI onto your DAW and it will bring you to that MIDI pattern, or you can drag and drop the audio over to your DAW. Now, I personally like dragging and dropping the MIDI because it also drag and drops all of the data from Loopmix. So any of the chops and the effects that I added to any of the tracks on Loopmix is going to drag and drop that inside of the MIDI file. And then after I drag and drop the MIDI, I'll usually turn that into an audio file and mess around with it a little bit more. But you can do it however you want to do it. You can also go over to export. You can hit export as audio file, and you can just export all of your WAV files into an individual folder on your computer. So that's really cool. But yeah, that's some of the most basic features inside of this thing that's going to get you going, get you started, and get you making some really incredible loops. This is really great for drums, but it also works really well with melodies. I'm just gonna show you really quickly how you can drag and drop some of your own samples into this thing and get something really dope going. So let's go over to sounds. Let's hear what some of these sound like. So we'll drag and drop this one onto track 1. So that's there. Let's see what else we got. You can maybe drag and drop that on the track 5. Let's see. We'll drag and drop this onto track 3. So we'll just start with these 3 samples here to make it really simple for you. And you can just start rearranging the sample how you want. So we're going to highlight all of these loops that I just added. And I'm going to just start playing around with this thing so you can hear what starts to happen once I start playing around with the reverse and the density. So let's see what's going on here. Right, then we'll take, go over to rearrange, put 2 of these here, 2 kicks here, go over to sequencer. You can speed up the melody. So as you can see, I chopped this thing all up. If I wanted to just export this thing, it would be as simple as dragging and dropping those tracks that I chopped up right onto the DAW. Just drag and drop, and it drag and drops that sample that I just put together. Yeah, that's pretty much what this thing does. It allows you to get crazy with your loops. Now you can do some really incredible things, and it's really dope. It comes loaded up with a bunch of different presets. So what I want to do right now is take you through some of the presets that come inside of this thing. And then after that, we'll get into the cookup and I'll show you a beat that I made using Loopmix. But let's go through some of the presets really quickly. So I'm gonna just press forward through a bunch of different presets and we can hear what that sounds like. Let me pick another random preset. I'm gonna just scroll down a little bit. D&B kit, let's see what this sounds like. Let me play with the randomization button. Then we can hit the temporary randomization button and I'll show you what that sounds like. Really cool stuff. And like I said, it's loaded with presets. You can see right here, I'm just scrolling nonstop. They have a lo-fi beat section. I'll play back some of these. You can go to another preset. Randomize to something that looks kind of interesting. And put that on. And that right there could be the start to your next lo-fi beat or alternative beat. But yeah, this thing really has like an endless amount of possibilities of different arrangements that you could come up with the different loops you add inside of this thing. So what I want to do right now is I want to get right into the cookup. I want to show you guys a beat that I made using Loopmix. So let's do that really quickly. Now with this beat, all of the drums that I made inside of this beat come from Loopmix. They're all drums that I dragged and dropped from different sample kits that I had and chopped them up and flipped them inside of Loopmix to sound how I want them to sound. So this is what the drums sound like that I created inside of Loopmix. And now I'll play you back the beat that I made using Loopmix. So this is the beat I made using Loopmix. So yeah, that's the beat I made using Loopmix. Like I said, Audiomodern is excellent at creating devices that make really taking specific areas of music production and making them a lot simpler and a lot more interesting. So they really took chopping up loops, flipping loops, reversing loops, just doing all of these really creative things with loops to a whole new level. At full price, it's still under $100. And right now it's on sale for 49 euros. So it's a great deal for what you're getting and all of the different possibilities you're getting. It's an incredible price, and it's a bargain actually for everything that you can do inside of this thing. Like I said, I didn't take you through everything you can do, but they have a complete overview on the website that you guys can check out. But let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you're going to be adding to your arsenal? Can you see yourself doing some really creative things with loops? I did some really creative drum loops that I might be adding to some sample packs that I put out later. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. As always, if there's any new plugins that you'd like to see me bring to this channel, leave it in the comment section down below and I'll check it out as soon as I can. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you can stay notified anytime I drop a new video. and I'll catch you guys on the next one.